Now, just as somebody who watched the trial from afar, the change in judges really seemed to bring about a night and day difference in the trial and just how it was run. I mean, did you guys see that firsthand, and how were your lives affected by the new schedule the judge implemented?
Well, I'll tell you, it went from we're going at a leisurely pace and I am always prepared, because two things happened. Judge Whitaker came on and she did a great job, but she was strict, 9 to 5:30, 2 breaks and a lunch break, and the lunch was, an hour. But the other thing that happened shortly thereafter is all my friends, or most of my friends, their clients took plea deals. And so the overlooked part of that was not only that it eliminated quote unquote defendants, clients, but it eliminated defense attorneys. So the division of labor, like myself and Brian, we had a great division of labor going on. And all of a sudden, my buddy was gone, and Mr. Adams was gone, and the Matthews were gone, and Miss D. Williams was gone, and Gardner, all of them were gone. Bruce. And Mr. Harvey. And then I look over and it's just me and Doug and Mr. Botts and Shaq. And, that changed things because it was all of a sudden a lot more was going to be on us. And we were the only ones. And so, we just kind of looked at each other and said, I guess it's us.
And I think that probably the plea negotiations and all began when Judge Whitaker kind of told the prosecution, y'all have gone too far, and I may grant a mistrial here, which was what everybody was asking for at that time. And she said, I think y'all better have some discussions.
Yes.
And that is the only reason that we were actually brought together and able to communicate somewhat with the prosecution. So some of them were able to work out deals. And I think in the end, if you think back, is that a jury, they're not supposed to know what happened because they're not allowed to read, see, or do anything. So if you look at it the way it should be looked at, is that they did not know about Thug pleading guilty.
Jeffery
Williams and everybody pleading, getting deals, pleading guilty to this and that. They may have thought when they came back in and saw only 2 left, and the judge had to tell them, you're not supposed to concern yourself with just what happened. There's just some of them that are not here anymore, and these are the only 2 left. Some of them may have thought that the cases were dismissed against the other people for lack of evidence or whatever. I don't know. And that would have helped us if they're saying, well, if all the rest of them are gone, what are we left with? Why are they still here?
I never looked at it that way. I thought that the jurors would assume that pleas were rendered, but and that can be a negative, right? Like, okay, these
guys are the worst of the worst if they're still here.
Or these other guys admitted and these guys aren't. But I kind of viewed it as, what, we're the, and I'm not throwing shade at anyone else, so please don't take it that way. I support everyone that came to a plea agreement, and the reality is we never had at all a reasonable offer. So that was the difference with us.
Sorry, for the masses, the final offer was 60 years to serve 40, right? And it would reduce the murder counts to involuntary manslaughter. But I mean, so what? When you
voluntary, but I don't really want to reveal the numbers, but they were astronomical. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah.
And so we never had any realistic thoughts of pleading. Of course you have to convey the offer, but we gonna fight. And so the way I looked at it is, maybe the jurors, if they have doubts and they're on our side a little bit, maybe they're looking at it not like, oh, everyone else pled guilty because everyone's guilty, but dang, these two guys are standing up strong, and they've straightened their backs and puffed their chests out, and sometimes people like that.
Yeah.
And that's brave to do. And so I viewed it as a potential positive that we were the only two there.
Yeah, me too. And ironically, is that Shannon had said to me all along, I wouldn't even take probation.
Stop. Will you stop?
And he got probation.
Mr. Botts, man.
Getting into the gritty of the notes. I see somebody asked, and we've had a lot of requests for this. What was the state's reaction for the verdict, other than just were their faces just or somebody run out of the courtroom? How did the prosecutors react when the verdict was read?
Ms. Botts, please don't answer this. No. If it's gonna be petty.
It wasn't.
No
reaction.
Please do.
I didn't pay any attention. Certain prosecutors came up to me afterwards and congratulated me, and that was very professional of them.
Yeah. Good. Who do you want to play you in the movie? Is there? I mean,
what movie?
It's not crazy to think that there could be some kind of creative venture on this. Have you guys had any contacts from anybody, or not that you would want to say, but is Hollywood called?
I'll say no, but I haven't really. I've got so many messages on my phone, and I'm playing catch up. Messages are coming in faster than I can really clear them. But no, I saw something on the internet where people were saying who's going to play who, and they had the transporter guy, and I was like, the transporter guy really does look like me.
Yeah,
maybe that guy.
Yeah,
someone put Matthew McConaughey. Oh man, my mother-in-law would go crazy if that happened.
I wanted to ask about. Did you stay in touch with the other attorneys, because they had to have been prepared for some of the witnesses that were coming up? So, I mean, were you talking to Brian Steele about other witnesses when they were coming up, and what his preparation was for that?
I talked to Brian Steele
every day,
5 times a day. And I don't, I hope he doesn't mind me saying this, but the message that he always gave, Brian is a very high energy individual, and he's a very positive individual. And he would just say, stay strong. I am so proud of you.
Yeah. That leads me to somebody wants to know what it was like to work alongside him. I mean, it was terrible, right? You hated it. Or what can you talk about what it was like to work alongside him? And do you think he's one of the best trial lawyers in the country?
I think he is the best trial lawyer in the country. And the reason I say that is not because of what happens in court, is what happens out of court.
Yeah.
Being with him throughout this process made me better, because I said, how am I going to let Brian do that? And I'm not there with him. So you think a big thing discrediting investigator Viverito, 24M on an end's head. You think that just like comes out of nowhere? That's from Brian or someone else on the team scrolling through so much stuff to figure out exactly what Jeffery was talking about at that moment, and then linking it up to something that was on the internet at that moment.
Yeah.
And
that's the little Uzi Vert diamond in the head.
And that's just one example, but there's so much stuff that if that time isn't spent outside of court checking behind everything, that flies in front of the jury. And all of a sudden Jeffrey's talking about ordering a hit. But it's all that out of court time, all the people you talk to, the amount of time that you spend with your client going through everything and fully understanding the case. That's what leads to those in-court revelations. And I was able to piggyback, especially dealing with we were able to piggyback, especially dealing with the gang investigators, on a lot of those things that had come up earlier through Brian and Keith's efforts,
Mhm.
and the team. Trisha Renard was the jury consultant. We called people were calling her YSL Granny, I think, but she was. People say I knew the discovery, like on the next level, but Trisha knew the discovery on the next level.
And Trisha was the woman that we always saw sitting next. Was she the woman sitting next to Young Thug?
Yeah, or next to Keith. Next to Keith.
Next to Keith. And she used to be an ALM reporter, right? Wasn't she at the Daily Report? And,
yes.
The legal newspaper. So kind of
Right.
segued into legal work that way. But so, I mean, you all become kind of a dysfunctional court family when this all happened. So it had to have been almost kind of like a weird divorce when the other defendants left. But like you said, you were able to all stay in touch with everyone.
Right. And it was just complete support. Nicole Westmoreland would check on me daily. Lamar Gardner, Lamar, all we did the whole time was bicker, fussing at each other the whole trial. And then as soon as he was done, he showed me what our relationship really was because he was checking on me.
Yeah.
So,
and
well,
Bruce,
and Bruce,
Ali from Tennessee says, watching you during the trial was fascinating. Your passion is one of a kind. I have so much respect, and I cried my eyes out when you and Shannon hugged after the verdict. God bless you. I know we've talked before that you black out in those moments and don't remember it. But I mean, his kids were in the courtroom. His grandmother was in the courtroom. Did you talk to them afterward, or what were those moments like after the hug and before was he taken back to a holding cell still, or how quick
he was in I didn't get to talk to him afterwards because I was just getting pulled in so many directions, but that's why I went out. What was it, yesterday, or I went the day after the verdict and we had a long talk. But his grandmother was there and his kids, and Kayla was there, and other young ladies that are his exes were there supporting him. But it's really not like, it wasn't a show or anything like that. It was, it was Miss Alexander, and there's another young lady, I don't really want to say her name, but she's known Shannon for probably 15 years, and they used to date, and she showed up. You heard her on some of the jail calls, and it was just everyone was getting along, and it was just, and I've tried to stress to Shannon the level of support he had.
Yeah.
Or has, so he fully understands that he's not alone.